name's Chris Framberg. This is Brian Johnson. We just really want to tell you a little bit about us and our story and really why we got into this. Brian, why don't you start?
Well, I got started when I was 7 years old. My dad was really handy and he liked to build things. So our garage was filled with all kinds of weightlifting contraptions I knew nothing about, but he got me into it at a young age. As I recall, looking back, I had my first gym membership when I was in 5th grade. So I've been involved in it from a reading perspective, from an experimental perspective, and kind of everything in between. And really when I became 18 years old and graduated high school in '96, that's when I started working with World's Gym as a trainer and really started to dive into my education. I went through about 89 hours of college and got bored with it in sports management because it wasn't feeling my desire to learn the things that I wanted to learn that were directly applicable. So what I started doing was I went to work as a trainer at 24 Hour Fitness. I spent about 9 years with them and worked my way from a trainer into a managing position where I had anywhere from 16 to 24 trainers for about 7 years. And during that time was when I really dove into my education. I ended up getting about 6 or 7 certifications from National Academy of Sports Medicine. I've got a rehabilitative background from Baylor, so I've dealt with people with prosthetic limbs and knees, spinal fusions. I work with doctors and chiropractors doing that type of therapy in a gym or a commercial setting. What really got me on my path was when my father found out he had prostate cancer. There's so much information out there on you should do this and you should do that, and no one had congruent ideas, and the information was nothing concerning, well, you should check out asparagus and you should check out avocado, where you should start using cucumbers. It was all kinds of crazy business. So I really kind of find myself into a pickle that I didn't want to be in because I wanted to know the information for my dad to help him out, but also with all the other people that I've come into contact with. And in my career, I've worked with over 7,000 people in the amount of time that I've been doing this, and I've run across all kinds of scenarios. So when that situation happened with my father is really what got me onto a completely different thirst for nutrition, understanding, which led Chris and I into disease-specific nutrition reversals, into conscious language, into sacred body language, into things that are grocery store practical, but also diving into our languaging, our body telling us things so that we can understand what it's communicating with us subconsciously. And over the years, it has just exploded into all kinds of awesome information, from amazing teachers that we deal with now to mentors to coaches to people have really taken us under their wing and let us bug them a lot. And I do. We call them all the time, we talk to them, and they coach us and they take us through these information so that we can utilize this information to be the best asset to the people that we deal with. And that's really why we kind of decided to take this information and put it into a format that's deliverable to help the masses.
I never started working out when I was young. I was barely involved in athletics. I played a couple of sports in soccer and tennis. But I was probably smarter than I should have been, and I started college at a very early age. I started college at 15. By the time I was 19, I had been working and going to school, and I was just done with it all. So I moved to Colorado to be a ski instructor and didn't find fulfillment there. So I moved to Key West to be a beach bum for a year and didn't find my fulfillment there. And came back to Texas and just got a job kind of like everybody else does. And I got in that habit of just drinking on a regular basis and eating bad food. And I had been skinny my whole life, and I was starting to put on pounds, especially around my waist. And I found that was definitely not the lifestyle I really wanted to live. So I talked myself into going to get a gym membership, and I went to 24 Hour Fitness, and I'm a sales guy, so I went directly to the top, and I went to the GM there and said, listen, I really need help here. I don't know how to eat. I don't know how to work out. I don't know how to do anything. I'm not like these guys you see all the time that come in there and probably get a gym membership a couple of months and never work out again. And he kind of gave me the same song and dance he does to everybody else, but I got his phone number and I called him on a weekend, and I got him alone away from the gym, and he was like, okay, I get it. You're darn determined. Why don't you come in on Monday and I'll give you a 30-day free pass. And I went in there, and I went to that gym for 2 years. I never paid for personal training. I never paid for food. I became friends with every personal trainer that was there and asking them when they worked out so I could work out with them. And sure enough, my best friend came out of it because he was the personal training manager. And that's really what started us on our journey about 11 years ago. You know, so for many years we just would work out and hang out friends, and probably about 6 years ago we were both needing different direction in our lives. And we really wanted to get into kind of we were reading articles about corporate wellness and how people were using trainers to, really implement that in a workforce to help people, save money on health insurance and to get healthy again. And we knew we could bring kind of a nutritional aspect, but at the time we only really knew what the fitness nutrition world knew, which was really how to lose body fat. Even though that is valuable information, it is not necessarily healthy information. But because we got into this world, people started coming to us with products and education and all these different dietitian theories. So we just started studying and learning a little bit at a time. But the big trigger for me, just like Brian was for his dad, was my mom. My mom had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and she also had osteoarthritis really bad. Fibro, if you don't know, is basically an incurable disease, and they really just gave you pain medications for it. Over time, it started with just pain in her hands or pain in her feet, and then eventually it was pain in her arms and her legs, and eventually if she had a hard day at work, she would be bedridden for like 3 days in extreme pain. One of the first things we really learned about was the power of acidic and alkaline, and really some dietitian theory about avoiding food allergies and acidic diets. Well, so I took that information to my mom, and within about 4 or 5 months, all of her fibromyalgia symptoms abated and disappeared, and she's teaching dance again for the first time in 10 years. And the osteoarthritis in her hands was bone degradation. The little bone spurs would break off in her fingers, and she'd get these little acid blisters, and she had to have joints replaced. I started learning some things about food that we're going to teach you, and really I taught how to regenerate the bones, and she never gets any blisters. In fact, I started to get blisters before I learned about this about 5 or 6 years ago. And I totally reversed that myself and my mother too. And that really started to enlighten us about the power of food. So for the last 5 or 6 years, all Brian and I have done is studied about the power of food. And now we've learned that wellness goes beyond food. It is so spiritual and mental and emotional that it has such a huge impact on our physical body that's just as important at being well as the nutrition aspect is. And so that's one of the things why we want to include all these different informations into our overall wellness, because it's just as important. And we're not experts in everything, which is why we bring in a lot of affiliates for you to learn from. We think that's very, very important for your health.
This is something that you may be aware of, but his body type and mine are completely different. This guy couldn't buy a pound, and I can buy 50 of them for free. So I've lost and gained 60 pounds on 2.5 different occasions. I say 2.5 because I caught myself and made some adjustments prior to the third one being fulfilled. And as a person who loves to eat, there's people who live to eat, and then there's people who eat to live. I'm one of the people who eat to live, but I used to live to eat. And understanding how that works on an emotional scale, and understanding that a lot of that information is subconscious issues that we've had, that maybe events we've had in our lifetime that we have no idea consciously that we're dealing with them. And I speak from personal experience, because when my dad was going through that situation, I ate a lot because of the fear and the anxiety that I was holding subconsciously, but I had no idea that's what was manifesting into consciously with me wanting to eat the foods to curb for that difference. So there's some awesome information that we're going to bring to you, and coaches of ours that we're going to bring to you to really help you and enlighten you and raise your awareness on the information that's out there that is valid and will make such a dramatic difference in your life. And we're just really excited that you're actually going to take the journey with us so that we can teach you the proper information and really help you to make a life transformation.
We understand from helping people lose weight for so many years, even before we got into this whole wellness aspect, that we could tell people what to eat all the time, but that wasn't their problem. Their problem was they emotionally didn't want to stick to it, because you know what? No matter how bad somebody feels, food always tastes good. And so it's such an emotional fix and a fill the void for people that they don't understand why they emotionally eat. And that's one of the things that totally needs to be addressed when you're treating the body as a whole is, why do you do that? Why do you self-sabotage? Why do you crave these types of foods? And it's so often linked to emotional issues just as much as it is the taste of the food. One of the things that we really want to make sure that we cover is the spiritual aspect. And, you know, there's two things that are related to basically every sickness and disease in the body, and that's stress and inflammation. So one of the things we do is teach you how to have an anti-inflammatory diet, but how do you manage your stress? We're going to help you with money management. We're going to teach you with your priorities and how to do, define your time. How often do you hear that? I don't have enough time. Well, there's a lot of time in every single day, and that you base what's important in your time based off what you think is important in your life. And sometimes our priorities need adjusting so that we can understand what is most important and how we fit that into our schedule. So we're going to teach you how to do that. And all these different types of stress come from fear and anger and shame and guilt and anxiety. And if you can spiritually get your mind in the right place and your heart in the right place, and you can let go of those past events, stress can disappear, and so can sickness in the body. So that's why it's so important to understand these about both yourself and your environment, nutritionally, and so that way it's all holistic, encompassing, treatment to the body and really being well.
Interesting fact some of us may not be aware of, but believe it or not, time is the only resource that we all have the same amount of. So it's a matter of what's important to you, redirecting your focus on putting you first to make sure that you are taken care of so you can be a blessing to those in your life. And I know, speak from experience, I've been backwards on that one a few times, and it's cost me dearly, but it's also brought the experience so that I understand when my priorities are not matching up with God, family, health, and business, or whatever works for you. When those things are off, you're not going to be able to be the best you can be, nor are you going to be able to deliver that and be that for the people that are in your life.
We really want to, help you on this journey. We want you to take on and learn every week a little bit something else. We want you to be able to slowly adjust your life. It's not an overnight change. It never is. But we're going to teach you some very powerful things and some very powerful techniques that is really going to make you the best you that you can be. And that really is our goal, is to help as many people as possible. Some people really need one-on-one coaching because spiritually and, counseling, that one-on-one is really where you can get a lot of release. But we can only help so many people on a one-on-one basis. So this program is really designed so that we can help people on a one-to-many scale and spread the wealth and the knowledge that we have to as many people as possible. Because if anything, we just want to make a change in this world that's positive before we leave. And I think that's both of our missions in life.
Yes, and it goes to the tune of this. If you don't make time for your wellness, you will make time for your illness.
Thank you very much.